Breaking news! Japan focus tree confirmed. That confirms the next expansion about Survivor 4 will be Japanese Pacific focus. It also confirms that it will be the update where coal gets added to the game. And we also have another big confirmation. This is the best dev diary so far. With all focus trees in Art Survivor 4, or with all countries in Art Survivor 4, the game starts with the nation falling apart. Oh, surprise, surprise. Maybe Kaiserreich was onto something. So there are divisions on the left and right in the military. The Navy and the Army are separate divisions with their own separate armies completely. There is no dedicated air force. The Army and the Navy have separate air forces. And also the civilian government, which I presume is the democracy, I'm not sure about that one, is fighting with those factions. And that is also Hirohito, which is the emperor. Are they their own faction as well? Oh, they're the factions. Army faction, naval faction, the Zybus faction. I believe this is like the big corporations, the big businesses like the corporations, and the civics faction, which I presume is the democracy element of Japan. Japan now starts non-aligned. Now, if you go fascist, which you will inevitably go on historical, that will pursue the path of historical, which is invading China. And if you want to go down a different ideology, my presumption would be you would embrace one of the different factions. This does have a bit of a balance of power vibe to it, and it also does have a little bit of an inner circle vibe to it with the different factions. It is a balance of power, but with 4 factions. Does that mean it's going to be like a X, Y, and Z axis? I don't know. Let's find out. So it looks like there's missions incorporated into the focus tree, depending on the faction's needs. And depending if you brace other factions' needs, you'll get different bonuses and negatives. Interesting one there. Can you see this? Land breakthrough progress, 25% for declaring on a major power. And the army faction is less influential. Is the least influential. Interesting. I would have thought with this bonus in mind, it would be more influential. Okay, interesting. Anyway, they have missions in mind. If you fulfill their needs, you will get bonuses. The biggest bonuses for the balance of power between the army and the navy for Japan, as it currently stands, is these particular bonuses. Can you see these ones? It comes down to making planes cheaper. But actually, now I zoom in on this and actually analyze it, it actually is cheaper guns by 7.5%, which is actually pretty good. Oh, actually, the fighter and cast is actually here. These bonuses are really good. Okay, yeah, here we go. Here's the bonuses a little bit closer. So, first of all, these 3 bonuses, well, 4 bonuses are outstanding. Then we have carrier aircraft, 7.5%. All warships, 7.5%. That one's really good too. Then we have the civic faction, which gives political power and stability. And trade laws are less. Okay. So this looks like the inner economy, the workers, I guess. The working faction, the working class. And then finally the Zybus, which is all about building your economy. Which is all about big business. However, the penalty changing economic law is pretty big. Overall, these bonuses also seem pretty good, but it does seem like the civics leans toward anti-war and stability and political power. The Zybus leans towards construction speeds. And then, of course, the armies are for the armies. Political focus starts with preparing a coup in order to replace the dissident government and replace it with the Japanese tradition. Before they can do this, however, one of the leaders needs to be let out of the house arrest while his trial is happening. This is very similar to how Greece starts, isn't it? With the election and the king assuming power or leaving power. I forget which. So once again, you can try and prevent this coup from happening by increasing security. I presume the historical path is to have the coup happen and be executed. And now we have this gentleman, which is a moderate politician. Moderate in Victoria 3. That means he doesn't want to change everything. He's okay with the status quo. And the Imperial Rule Assistance Association. Fascism will become the party and you will become fascist. Okay. So this is the natural path you go for. And I presume after the coup happens, this man takes control. You go for this focus and you do become fascist. You have full control then. I presume that fixes your political situation. So it's probably one of those nations that fix their political situations in lightning speed. The army is growing impatient. So this is, once again, going to war against China. So declaring against war against China is a ticking, slow affair, and it will eventually happen. It will abort if you are in a civil war, a subject, or you're at war with China already. So you basically can declare war, but this war is inevitable, and it will count down to this event. So in the past, you could declare war on them early for advantages. You could kind of wait to take advantage of like a few bugs that allow you to declare war early. But now you've got the option that you will go to war regardless of what happens. It does look like maybe you mitigate this 2% world tension, or maybe that's less depending if you justify it. I would imagine this would be less. Similarly, the army might get some ideas once they get strong enough and give you demands for territorial expansion. Okay, demands to strike the south, further reduction in cost for ships, up to 10% cheaper ships. That's pretty cool. However, the army takes a penalty and takes a hit. Fighting, cast, infantry, and whatnot all become more expensive. Okay. It is cool that some of these bonuses are really, really OP, and you have to really make a tough decision which one to go for. Based on the cost of guns early game, this is usually really strong. And then as the game progresses, I'd imagine aircraft becomes more useful, like carriers and warships, due to the fact that they're really expensive to begin with. So you're not only making them cheaper, but you're making them build quicker as well, I suppose. It comes with double whammy. Japanese politicians historically had different elements with the nation and different aspirations and would stop at little to get their wishes fulfilled. So this is once again reflecting on the different factions wanting their objectives fulfilled. In this circumstance, it's either strike the north or strike the south, either attacking the Soviet Union or China. Being that you're fascist and it's a military-based government, I'd imagine this is inevitable, but depending on what direction it goes, depending on that. So we have a very blurry focus here. Ooh, what could these be? And these, and these. This is a focus Okushinron. Create a unit in Tokai. Gains army XP, and land doctrine. Not really a jaw-dropping bonus, but interesting nonetheless. What can we summarize from this? There's a balance of power, but now it's kind of 4 ways. However, there's not visual representation of that balance of power other than this. It'd be nice if there were some numbers on here to see who's... It just says dominating, influential, meddling, subsued. I wish there was a bit more to this. Maybe a range, a balance, a swinging of scales. Just... These names is just a little bit underwhelming. It'd be kind of nice if this would be worked upon, developed on, showing maybe a green light, yellow light, or red light, maybe, for instance. Just a suggestion. Just to show the level of power each of these factions have. Remember, this is a dev corner. Keep calling it a dev out of habit. Remember, a lot of the things that we're showing today will be massively changed, or maybe be scrapped completely, but depending on when the game is officially released. Being that this expansion has not been officially announced and given a date, you know what? There's even a very small part of me that says that maybe this isn't coming this year. That would be a big shock, though. No, that would be a big shock, because usually in Sweden they break up in Christmas. So we'd probably see it next year in February or March, probably. It's either going to be November, December, or going to be next year. God, I'm very broad when it comes down to my predictions here. If you throw everything at the wall, something will stick, right? My guess would be if you do support maybe some of these other factions, maybe you form a corporatist faction or a civic faction, maybe you form a democracy, for instance. Or maybe the way you could abolish all 4 of these, and Mary Hirohito maybe could become the absolute monarch of Japan. Which I always thought in the original Japan focus at the moment, it's probably the least interesting path, you know? You become unaligned, and I believe striking the north is more of a concern because you're against the Soviets, because you're a monarch. Imagine communism and monarchies don't go hand in hand. It doesn't appear to be a balance of power button here showing anything, so it doesn't look like it will be shown as a part of the country screen. However, we do have many different bonuses and penalties here. It'd be kind of cool if these were actually individually shown here, because I don't think they're shown here in Hoi 4 at the moment. I think you have to go into the decisions. Could be wrong about that. Once again, maybe I've not played Japan in a while. My only fear with this is maybe a lot of these decisions are railroaded for the player, and the player doesn't have much of a choice, and the player is sucked into a war against China, even if they don't really want to, or they're not prepared to. I kind of like it when Hoi 4 is more sandboxy in a way. Like you're kind of giving a direction where you're meant to go, but then you have a choice if you don't want to make that decision or not. Anyway, there's lots of speculation here, not a lot of information. Clearly, we can see the formation of a Japan focus tree, and we can see the elements of the fascist path for Japan in Hearts of Iron 4. Hey, do you enjoy this kind of content? Then don't forget to like and subscribe and hit a comment. Then YouTube will present more of this content to you in future. If you don't see my videos, it's probably because you were not interacting with my videos. Give YouTube what they want, and they will present you with good things like, well, my videos. Apart from that, boys, have a good day. I love you so much. Bye-bye.